get a good look, because this is it. My Rhinebeck sweater. Here it is. This is my sweater, and it has a story. This year for 2018 Rhinebeck, I just wanted to make like a cozy, bulky weight sweater that was gonna knit up kind of fast and be super cozy. And I shared this idea with my friends and they all just shut it down. They shut it all the way down because in 2017, it was 70 degrees. It was super warm and very disappointing for all of us knitters who had knit a sweater, and they just said, there's no way you can knit such a bulky sweater. So I was feeling bad about that and thought, you know, they have a point. If it is 70 degrees, I'll be very disappointed that I won't be able to wear this sweater, even though if it's 40 degrees, it'll be the perfect thing. Of course, I thought about maybe I knit several options, maybe plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, whatever. So I'm feeling defeated, and then the Tecumseh, which I'd already knit, the Tecumseh comes on the radar of all of these knitters going to Rhinebeck. And I thought, well, I sort of feel like I want to join in. So I even picked out yarn and bought yarn for a different Tecumseh, and I'm talking about it on Instagram stories, saying, you know, my frustration, or just sort of, I don't know, I'm just sort of talking about it. So my friend Todd, who's known as the Blunt Knitter, he messaged me and said, don't listen to anybody, you do you, knit whatever you want. Which I generally have that voice inside my head anyway, but it was helpful to hear it. And so I thought to myself, what do I love about my video, Tell Me About Your Rhinebeck Sweater? What do I love the most? And what I love is finding a through line, people who love a certain designer or certain yarns. I love discovering new things, and what I love the most is originality. So then I started thinking about this unicorn along we've had leading up to Rhinebeck 2018. I thought about our shawl and how I do want to wear the shawl, and I want to be in the photo with the shawl, and so what can I wear that matches the shawl? I kind of thought that a gray sweater would be nice, because then the shawl would really pop. But then I started thinking, well, unicorn, what can I make that's unicorny? And I remembered that I had seen this sweater at a department store, I think it was in Minneapolis, with my daughter when we were on a trip together. And it was a Gucci sweater for probably $4,000+, and it was striped raglan sweater with alternating knitted fabric and lace, like almost like a trim, like ribbon, alternating, and there were stripes in the middle and then different stripes on the sleeves, but the sleeves matched. And there was a huge applique in the middle that had a cat on it with these like rays shooting out from the cat. And I put it on my Instagram story at the time. So many people responded, that is the ugliest sweater I've ever seen. And I just loved it. I just thought it was so amazing. And so I took a photo of it, and as all of these thoughts were congealing and coming together, I suddenly knew what I was going to knit for Rhinebeck. So this is the sweater, and I spent hours, maybe not hours, but I spent a long time on Ravelry looking for a pattern, because I can't pull a raglan sweater out of my head. I really need guidance. So I knew I wanted to do fingering weight. I knew I wanted striped sleeves that were different from the body. And I don't know how to do that unless someone tells me. So after a lot of time searching, I actually bought probably 2 or 3 patterns, and I finally found the perfect one. Now, the Gucci sweater doesn't have the sleeve starting here at the collar like mine does. It starts kind of there, so it's even more basic than this one is. But this pattern is so great. It's called That 70s Tee by Janine McCarty Designs, Yarn and You Girl. And hers is a t-shirt. It ends right here. And it's super cute because she has sort of an indie dyed fabric in the middle. And then is this called a ring neck or a little ring neck? And then striped short sleeves, and then the little border that matches. It's adorable, and I highly recommend you look it up. For those of you who have those 1 or 2 skeins of indie dyed yarn and you just don't know what to do with them, this is your pattern. I obviously modified it. Now, I knew that there was going to be a unicorn, so I really chose my color palette sort of with my gut, sort of with an artistic moment, but also with intention. So I took this tiny little quilting class years ago, and my biggest takeaway was alternating darks and lights. Now I didn't completely follow that rule with this sweater, but I did a little bit. And I knew that I was gonna want my pops of pink to sort of be throughout. So you can see the pops of pink sort of up here. There's a little bit more on the bottom with this sort of coral pink and the hem. And I also knew that I wanted sparkle as much as possible. So I don't think you're gonna be able to see that right now as I'm talking to you, but I will do a close-up of this sweater so you can really get a sense of the details here. I pulled directly from Stash, except for a few that I bought. This is a very sparkly blue, and this is sort of a DK weight, but it has, there's a new term I've learned, something called air blow, blown air. It kind of has that sort of quality to it. What I love about the yarns that ended up making the cut is that they're all different from each other, and they all have a memory for me. And some of them I had never worked with before. For example, the wool ears, this is the wool ears right here, and this dark brown stripe. I had not yet worked with the yarn that they had given me, and I found it such a joy to work with. I also used a lot of sock yarn that maybe wouldn't have gotten a life without this sweater. So for example, this white stripe, it's sort of a cream stripe with some blue flecks, is from Hugh Loco's Backyard Chicken collection, and I really enjoyed incorporating that as well. One thing that just absolutely killed me was knitting the body with such neutrals and just telling myself, there's gonna be a unicorn there, there's gonna be a unicorn there, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. Because the sleeves are such a story compared to the body. The body stays a little tame, and my instincts were right, and I just kept talking to myself, and I feel like it turned out perfectly. Another thing that happened is, as I was constructing the body of the sweater, which you start there, my measuring of the stripes was a little off. So this white one is a little wider than the other ones. It doesn't bother me that much. I ended up doing about 3 inches on the stripes of the body, and I did around 2 inches for the stripes on the sleeves. I love it that way. I think it's perfect. I do think this sweater would be so rad if it was just a total Stash buster and the stripes were all different colors and just going crazy. I think this sweater could be taken to a completely other crazy level. And I wanted it to be similar to the Gucci sweater, so I really did try to have a little bit of a design element to it. As I was knitting, I went to Etsy and I ordered a bunch of different roving, and I ended up using primarily this one kit that had sort of the white sparkle with this rainbow section. And I incorporated other felting from my stash to acquire this beautiful unicorn. I wasn't sure what the unicorn was going to look like. I tagged many different clip art sort of images and patches and pins. I did a lot of research just on Google Images, and I would tag things that I thought I could actually achieve in felt. So one of my talents in embroidery and felting is just looking at the picture and making it happen on the fabric or with the felting needle. I haven't had a ton of experience with it, but whenever I've tried it, it's worked out really well, at least in my opinion. I think this unicorn turned out amazingly well, and I love it. So it's a challenge that I really like, and there's something about the visual that I can take my eyes and I can put it into this fiber. I don't know why or how. I think it's just something that I was born with. It's not something I've taken a class on. I just sort of know how to do it instinctively. I was taught how to felt, but then I just kind of ran with it in my own direction. I felted a giant sheep on my poodle skirt, my sheep poodle skirt for Rhinebeck last year, so it felt right to incorporate the felting this year as well. Felting the unicorn took hours and 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 hours, and it was worth every stab and every needle that I broke. And I debated on how to attach the unicorn, but I think this was the right instinct. I felted it to the sweater. As per the instructions in the pattern, I blocked the body and I blocked the top of the sleeve, and then I constructed it with a mattress stitch. And then after that, I knit in the round the rest of the sleeves, and I knit them 2 at a time, just to the point of I knit this section and then I knit this section. I knit this one and this one, and that was just for yarn management. This section right here, you can't really tell in the screen, but it has sequins, and it was a kind of a lace weight, and I had 2 skeins of it, so I held it double, and that was the right choice. And I just wanted to make sure that I was alternating and sort of finishing the sleeves simultaneously, and I was very happy with that technique. I also decreased as I went, and I love how the sleeve fits. So I didn't want to lose track of that, and it was easier to just do one side and alternate each side. I used circular needles on both. One was like a huge long, like 40 or something longer inch needle, and I just sort of used the magic loop, and one was shorter, and it was perfect technique. Loved it. I was so glad to not have DPNs with doing 2 sleeves at a time. After I was finished with the sleeves, I just did a steam block for the rest of the sleeve. I didn't wash it, and I love how it fits, so I'm totally fine with it. And then, like I said, I felted the unicorn to the sweater with my felting needle, and I couldn't be happier. No, I couldn't be happier. I just love my sweater. One thing to note, I used an alpaca that I bought in Denmark for the ribbing, and I knew it was thicker than the fingering weight yarn, and this was completely unintentional, but because it's thicker, it has sort of this, what is this effect? Like a little, ruffle? It kind of has a ruffle effect. And I was not intending that in the design, but I really like it, and I think it's nice. It kind of has a little tunic-y feel to it because of the ruffle, and you can kind of get a little dancing in. And so I was not intending that, but I love how that turned out. The only other thing I sort of thought about was the placement of the colors of the unicorn's mane. I thought about it a tiny bit. So I didn't really want this pink to bleed into this pink, but I loved that it had a nice contrast with the blue. I have no regrets. I love my Rhinebeck sweater so much. I love that I gave myself a theme and just ran with it. I loved incorporating all of these different yarns that I've acquired through the Kristy Glass Knits channel. It just feels right. I love the play on wool just with the felting technique because it's still wool, it's still a fiber art. I love that there are 2 different fiber arts happening at the same time. I just have been so excited to share this with you, and today is the day. If you're watching this, that means you're probably not at the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, and we miss you, and we hope that you will come someday. And if you're watching it after New York Sheep and Wool, I hope I got to meet you, and I hope that you made it on to tell me about your Rhinebeck sweater. And I was so thrilled to tell you about mine today. So thank you, as always, for your support and for visiting Kristy Glass Knits, and I'll see you next time. Bye!